the British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttoliveafloat.com.
Welcome to Rednal for round 2 of the British Superlite Championship for 2013. Straight on with the action then as we take a look at the lineup for 650 race number 1. Anthony Jackson is the fastest man in qualifying. He goes off pole position with Jake Swan alongside him on row number 1. And row 2 is Joe Walton with Phil Redfern on the outside. On row 3 is Paul Hudson with Sadie Redfern. And on row 4 is Tony Turner with Danny Kerwood. Just 2 drivers on each row alongside each other.
So the drivers lining up on the grid for the first race of the 650 Superlight Championship, round number 2 here at Rednal Raceway in Oswestry on the Shropshire and Powys border near Mid Wales. And a fantastic start from number 41 there, that's Anthony Jackson.
To be honest now, if you can put it together for the rest of the meeting, you know, getting some real points on the championship. You can see he's racing, well, looks like wet tyres on there, even though it is quite dry at the moment. So opting to take that setup, as by the looks of things all the drivers are, given it's quite a big dirt section here on this circuit. Just picking up Phil Redfern there, coming under the attentions of number 4, the man behind him, and that's Paul Hudson with a slightly more purple livery this year than he has in the past. But Joe Walton there, number 92, getting past Jake Swan there for second place.
Yeah, Joe Walton looking pretty quick in round number 1 at times. Made a few mistakes where he was not so much over-driving, but pushing the limit and then making a little mistake which cost him time and places. So he never really got a consistent race where he didn't make any mistakes in round 1 at Three Sisters in Wigan, but he looks quick here today at the Rednal Raceway. It's a track here where the surface is smooth, but there's so much action that the old onboard camera is going to get a rough ride.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And to be fair, I did Joe Walton an injustice by not claiming he was in second place. Of course he is, and that's a great result for him.
And that's him there in front of us at the end of the shot, I would imagine.
Absolutely. It was the fact that I couldn't see it, and I thought Jake had actually got past him, but no, he hasn't. He is still there, and there is Jake at the front of that pack. Paul Hudson behind him, Tony Turner behind him, picking up Sadie Redfern now, just powering her way out of that left-hand corner and down that long straight, having a look in her wing mirrors. But there's no one behind her either, so she's having a race of her own at the moment.
Sadie down in 6th place at the moment with Danny Kerwood in 7th, a big gap to him. But Sadie, as you say, Chris, running her own race down in 6th place at the moment in the number 55 Pink Lady Supercar. Jake Swan in the 110 machine in 3rd place at the moment, coming under the attentions of the man in the number 4 machine, and that's Paul Hudson. And Paul looking to try and put the pass on Jake, but Jake just holding his line and keeping it tidy. And as you said, Chris, there's not a lot of room around this place to try and put a pass on. Tony Turner just bringing up the rear of that little gaggle in 5th place, but the man out front still in the number 41 Superlight is Anthony Jackson, looking very, very comfortable and really putting his foot down and letting the whole thing get to all sorts of sideways, Chris.
Yeah, you think that. I mean, just looking actually a little bit more aggressive, sort of sat forward in his Superlight now. It's just really on it, really, really wanting this now.
Yeah, I think he's enjoying himself. He knows he's got a good pace.
Just watch this now. Look, watch this flick right, then flick left. Just we've got away from it. But I saw earlier in the race, he was just really enjoying that switch and just letting the weight shift on the Superlight and just power sliding his way around. He's really enjoying his driving here.
Absolutely, yeah. And the last lap flag we've just seen has come out, so just one more lap between Anthony Jackson and his first win of the season in 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah, it looked like he was on for it in round 1. It didn't quite materialise for it, but he's well on it here. The danger for him now is he's coming up towards the back marker, so will that get in his way? He's only got half a lap to go of this 8-lap race, but just making his way briefly onto the dirt, then onto the tarmac, and then we'll go back onto the dirt again. And Anthony Jackson way out in front. If I was him, I think he's got a great lead. He might as well just sit where he is and just follow home this back marker, providing he doesn't lose too much time here.
He doesn't want to get involved with Gordon Knox, but a man who's a little bit further down the field, that is Anthony Jackson again. We saw a brief shot of number 4 Paul Hudson being chased by 84 Tony Turner. So Anthony Jackson takes the win in race number 1 here at the Rednal Raceway. Joe Walton in second, Jake Swan, he picks up 3rd place, Paul Hudson in 4th there.
Well, the official results for 650 Superlight race number 1, then Anthony Jackson, the fastest man, taking the win and 35 points ahead of Joe Walton in 2nd place and Paul Hudson in 3rd. Then Tony Turner takes 4th ahead of Jake Swan, Sadie Redfern, Danny Kerwood, Phil Redfern, Wayne Stockbridge and Gordon Knox. The top 10 in the 650 class. Well, Vicky Monk is down in the paddock and she is joined by Paul Hudson, who finished in 3rd place.
So Paul, 3rd in race 1 of the day, how are you feeling?
Really confident. It's a nice new car and I'm enjoying myself out there, so let's just hope it carries on.
What are the differences between this car and your old Superlight then?
It handles a lot better and it's got a bit more performance as well. So I've just got to learn to drive it now, so it's going well. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
And what do you need to change then to get 3rd or 2nd, maybe even 1st for race 2?
I've just got to be tidier. I'm a bit untidy at the moment on the corners, and just be smoother and then it'll all come together.
So Joe, you qualified 3rd, you came 2nd in race 1, how are you feeling?
Pretty good, it's just moving up the ladder slowly. 1st is the next one. Yeah, just hope it keeps going. I mean, it's a bit slippy out there, but the tyres are alright, and yeah, no complaints so far. The track's lovely, it's a bit tight and twisty. 9 laps is a bit much because my hands are starting to ache a bit and I'm getting a bit lazy and tired, a bit messy, but yeah, it's right really.
What are you going to change for race 2 then?
I don't know, well, when I came with 2nd, so I think I'll just leave it as it is. It was going okay, so just don't touch it, but yeah, we'll see.
Anthony, you qualified 1st and you finished 1st in the 1st race of the day, how are you feeling?
Yeah, really good. It's my best result to date, so yeah, we're very happy with that. So yeah, it was pretty good. We sort of started on the pole, so we got off, pulled a bit of a lead. Joe was sort of keeping a steady pace behind, but never really got close enough to make a challenge. So yeah, we just sort of kept it clean and brought it home to take the win. So yeah, very pleased.
A great win for Anthony Jackson in the 650 class. As we move on to the Opens, Duncan Macbeth is the fastest man in qualifying and he sets himself up on pole position for race number 1. Alongside him, a newcomer to Superlight Racing from Supermoto is James Addy on P2 on the front row. On row 2 is Phil Lee with Colin Griffiths, and on row 3, just the sole driver in P5 is Danny Whitney. So work for Danny to do, just 5 drivers in this composition, but a narrow circuit, plenty of work for them all to do, no doubt.
So here we go then with race number 1 for the Superlight Opens. The drivers are on the grid. Great start there from Duncan Macbeth, who won 3 out of 3 in round number 1 at Three Sisters in Wigan. Phil Lee in 2nd place there, just running a little bit wide. Maybe got a bit of a nudge there, Chris. But again, Duncan Macbeth comfortable out front, and I think Mark Richardson in 3rd place at the moment.
Well, the way it's all going for Duncan, he's well on his way to taking the top spot and being the Open champion of this Superlight Championship. Obviously only just into round 2, but at the moment this is 4 out of 4.
Yeah, definitely 4 out of 4, looking the way that it's going to be for Duncan Macbeth, and he's charging away in 1st place and really showing the rest of them a clean pair of back wheels, and off he goes into the distance. And it'll be interesting to see just whether Phil Lee can actually stay within a few seconds of Duncan Macbeth in this race. Oops, that's Mark Richardson parked on a tyre apparently.
Yes, a little bit of assistance from race director Dave Durden there, and he may actually carry on because he doesn't look like he's done any damage. He's just managed to get his wheels protruding in the air over that tyre. But Duncan Macbeth out in front. Phil Lee, be interesting to see what he can do because he seemed to struggle a little bit for race pace, I felt, at Three Sisters. He had a reasonable meeting, but probably by his own standards, a bit of a shocker, really.
Yeah, just seeing race director Dave Dearden moving Mark Richardson's Superlight on his own just shows how Superlight these things are. In fact, that it just took one man on his own to move the front end off a tyre, and there is that man, Mark
Dave
Richardson.
Can move mountains, you say, sir.
Dave Dearden can in fact move mountains. Mark Richardson now, I would imagine, is running on the road just behind the leader, but a lap down. So that could be a little bit awkward for Phil Lee, who's actually in fact in second place at the moment. So all a little bit complicated on the road, and Phil Lee's wondering how Mark Richardson got in front of him probably, but I dare say he'll realise before too long that he is in fact still in second place, and Mark Richardson has a problem now because he needs to run good pace, but he's got to let Phil Lee through, and Phil acknowledging the fact that he's letting him through, but Mark Richardson, real disadvantage now, Chris.
Well, I should point out, number 698, James Addy, for those that have been following the championship, it is James Addy that finished second in the Elite Supermoto Championship last year. He injured his wrist at Mete, so opted to go for a Superlight this season, and come round two, he's now competing at Rednal, so great to see. I'll just see the wheels up the inside there of one Superlight, that's number 40, Colin Griffith. So actually I think we're riding on board with James Addy there.
Yeah, James Addy in that 698 machine. As you say, this is his first race in an open Superlight here at Rednal, or anywhere for that matter. And there he is, James Addy in the 698 machine, putting the pressure on Colin Griffiths. And we know that Colin's got plenty of pace, but we also know that James Addy's fairly quick.
Yeah, both of these very hard drivers, riders I suppose from James Addy's point of view, but both very gritty races regardless, and they'll be given 110% between each other. Great to see Danny Whitney going so well. I mean, he had a good meeting at Three Sisters in round one as well, and sort of some second, third, fourth positions. It's all enough to bag some important points come the end of the season.
Yeah, and from Colin Griffiths' point of view, this is who we're looking at the moment. From James Addy's point of view, perhaps, from Colin Griffiths' point of view, there's a bloke behind him who he knows very little about. He's never raced with James Addy before, and we know that James Addy's a real tiger. And last of the late breakers, James Addy there putting the pass on Colin Griffiths. Can he make it stick? Yeah, he gets it turned in, and Colin Griffiths there thinking, oh dear, this boy's a bit fast.
Well, to be fair, you've got to have something about you to be able to put a move like that on someone as experienced and as quick as Colin Griffiths, and to be able to make that move stick as well. But yeah, he stuck it in the tree instead.
Yeah, James Addy, as I said, he's got the slick tyres on, and it's done him in the dirt section, hasn't it? He's tried to get the back end round, and he just didn't quite have the traction to catch it on the power, and that power slide didn't quite work out for James, unfortunately. So Colin Griffiths disappears off, but James Addy coming through the right-left chicane, and there's Colin Griffiths in the distance. But James Addy just needs to give himself some time to get to grips with these Superlights. He's got two more wheels underneath him than he's used to in normal circumstances, and one in front of him that normally there would be some handlebars there.
Absolutely. Well, as Guy Martin once said to me, every day's a school day.
It is indeed, and when you've got extra wheels to be concerned about, that's the way it is. But this man out front, he's very much au fait and familiar with the setup that he's running.
Absolutely. Duncan Macbeth, I mean, I've already said it really, you know, he's out in front and he's just absolutely miles ahead, just looking so relaxed, and why wouldn't it be with that sort of lead? But what we have seen is he takes the checker flag for a great race win. You know, sometimes he takes his foot off the gas a little bit, as Colin Griffiths stops it completely, blocking James Addy, arms in the air, he's stalled it, Addy can't get past. Addy's figuring out what can I do now because it's so narrow. He's spun it 180 and going to try and get round the outside of Colin Griffiths. But I just wonder now, he can't go anywhere, but he technically has deliberately put his vehicle facing in the opposite direction of the circuit to try and get past him.
Don't run over the marshal.
And yeah, as you say, don't run over the marshal. And I just wonder, as another marshal's laughing at the whole situation, whether Dave Dearden, our race director, will be investigating that as to whether that was a completely legal move from James Addy. Lesson learnt, as I said before, every day's a school day. The official results for Open Superlight race number one then. Duncan Macbeth confirmed as the winner. 35 points for him then, ahead of Phil Lee taking second place. Danny Whitney battling his way from 6th to 3rd ahead of Colin Griffiths, James Addy and Mark Richardson. Let's get down to the paddock with Vicky.
Second in race one, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, good, yeah, it's improvement over quali, so you know, not bad really. Got a good start and yeah, made a place up off the line, so managed to hold on to that, but Duncan was just too fast. I couldn't hang on to him.
Duncan, the plan worked for race one and you won it. How are you feeling?
Ecstatic. It couldn't have gone any better. Got a really good start and held position. Didn't overcook it anywhere. Kept it tidy. That was what it's all about. And quite a gap I pulled out. I'm quite surprised. A bit of a hairy moment at once. I understand there was a bit of a coming together with some other cars. They kicked a load of stones and gravel onto the circuit of the hairpin. As I came into the hairpin, not knowing that was there, it was a little bit risky, should we say, but we got through it, and no mistakes, all good.
So a convincing victory for Anthony Jackson in 650, race number 1, and a great victory too for Duncan Macbeth in the open class. Join us again for all the action from race 2 after this break.
The British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttoliveafloat.com. The British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttoliveafloat.com.
Welcome back to Rednal in Shropshire for the British Superlite Championship. 650 Superlite Race 2 is on the cards, and it's Anthony Jackson, the man on pole position, with Joe Walton alongside him. On row 2 is Paul Hudson with Tony Turner. On row 3 is Jake Swan with Sadie Redfern. And on row 4 is Danny Kerwood with Phil Redfern completing the lineup.
So Anthony Jackson on pole position for race number 2 by virtue of having won race number 1. Joe Walton in second place in race number 1. He goes off second place, and Paul Hudson and Tony Turner off the second row of the grid.
I just saw Dave Dearden running.
Yes, Dave Dearden running to get out of the way of those Superlights as they charge towards the first turn, and it's Anthony Jackson who's managed to get the best of it into the first turn. Joe Walton from second place demoted down to 4th, with Paul Hudson in the number 4 machine in second place, and Jake Swan in 3rd at the moment. But Anthony Jackson, a very tidy start from him. I think Tony Turner down in 5th with Phil Redfern in 6th place at the moment. But again, Anthony Jackson really building a big lead in just less than half a lap.
Yeah, Jackson really running away with it. It's all getting a little bit leery from his
Tony Turner's in a bit of a mess there, Chris. Sorry to interrupt you.
And yeah, that's really messed up the race for the other guys. They're trying to come through. No one actually losing a place other than, well,
Tony Turner's lost a few places, unfortunately for him.
I'm going to say Gordon Knox, the only driver seeming to not be able to get through, but Tony with work to do now. And Jake Swan is battling it out with Joe Walton here.
Jake Swan, nice and tidy as Jake often tends to be, and he's just going to have to bide his time around this track. He looks a bit quicker than Paul Hudson, but he's also got Joe Walton breathing down his neck. So the man in the sandwich at the moment is Jake Swan in 3rd place here, and as we've said before, Anthony Jackson seems to have cleared off into the distance.
It's certainly looking
brilliant pass from Jake Swan. Sorry, Chris, you carry on, pick that one up. Brilliant move from Jake there.
Well, yeah, Jake managing to get straight past there, and I think that was the frustration. Paul Hudson lost quite a bit of time on the dirt section as he put it sideways, but it's just so narrow to pass. That's one of the few places actually where Jake could make a move stick, and he did. Earlier on in the previous race, actually, he put the Superlight sideways around turn 1, or technically turn 2 actually, as he was going into the right-hand turn, and lost a lot of speed, but actually managed to keep it honest and keep it pinned to keep hold of that position. The contact's made there, Paul overslides it, and Joe Walton does not hesitate in barging his way through there, up into 3rd place. A great move for Joe, and he'd obviously been watching the mistake that lap after lap now Paul Hudson's made on that dirt section, because he's got to really stop it, put the whole Superlight sideways and get the power down, and he's not quite mastered it. Joe's taking full advantage there.
Yeah, that's the problem that Paul Hudson has had all throughout this race. He's just not had the traction available to him in that right-hander through the dirt section. Everybody else has been getting the better of him there, and I would imagine if not the next lap, maybe the one after that, Phil Redfern will have spotted that, and he'll be trying to make inroads into Paul's lead. But you can see there Paul actually getting the better of things on the tarmac. So yeah, you can there's just a single two grooves cut down the middle of Paul's rear tyres there. So whatever his options are there, they're definitely not the full wets.
Exactly. Right, let's see how they get on here. And Joe Walton's made, well, not even the same mistake as Paul. He actually just complete understeer there. I think he got a little tap on the way in, and that's messed his race up, because he's not just lost the one place he gained, he's lost 2 now to Phil Redfern.
Yeah, that would be enough, wouldn't it, if he just got a little tap at the back end, and that puts the weight transfer into the front, takes the weight off the back, and if he stamped on the back brake, because we've said before that these 650 Superlights have got a split brake pedal, so you can press both pedals pedals together, that means you get braking at the front and the rear, or you can just stamp on the rear brake pedal, and that means that the back brakes just lock up, the weight's there, it'll flick round, but if you get a little tap, the weight goes onto the front and it won't let the back end step out. So I would imagine that's perhaps what's happened for Joe Walton there. And Phil Redfern now trying to chase down the man who's been promoted, sort of stayed in third place, Paul Hudson.
Well, yeah, Paul Hudson back up into third place, and notably Phil Redfern passed Joe Walton there too.
Yeah, Joe Walton just got stuck, didn't he, in that right-hander in the dirt section, which is just there, and there's a Superlight pulled off to the outside. That's 52, is it, or is that 21?
Wayne Stockbridge.
This is definitely a fantastic performance from Anthony, and you've said this before, Chris, he looks just like he's got lots of time in the car and lots of time on the track, and he's already coming up to lap, I think probably Gordon Knox, is it, in the 47 Superlight, who's the back marker at the moment, or is it Wayne Stockbridge actually who's running fast on the road at the moment?
It is Gordon Knox, right in the orange Superlight, and I think it's his first season, Gordon, you know, so it's great to see him out there and competing. And actually Superlight racing's probably not as expensive as you think to get going, and great fun as well. You know, I have had a go at it, and it's just immense fun. So if you fancy it, then get in touch and see if you can get yourself out there and be competitive with these boys. Two classes, 650s and the Opens, and at the moment Anthony Jackson having it his own way in 650, race number 2 for the checkered flag. He takes a great race win.
Fantastic performance there from Anthony Jackson, 2 out of 2 here at Rednal in Shropshire.
Well, another great race for Anthony Jackson then in 650 Superlight Race 2. He goes away with 35 points for his second win of the day. Jake Swan having a good result, battling his way up to second place ahead of Paul Hudson in third. Then Phil Redfern, Joe Walton, Danny Kirwood, Sadie Redfern, Gordon Knox, Wayne Stockbridge and Tony Turner complete the top 10. Let's get down to the paddock then for reaction with Vic.
So Paul, another third place for you. Are you happy about that?
I am. I'm really confident now. If I get another third, I'll be really happy. Yeah. To see what happens.
Seems to have come together for you today. What's the secret?
Getting used to my new car, I think. Or I'm just getting used to the circuit. I don't know. Let's see how it goes.
So Jake, race 2 then, you managed to get back on the podium points.
Well, it took a bit of doing, but we got there. It was a good race, hard, and it didn't rain, which was the main thing. But no, quite proud of it. Keeps me back up there with the points. Gets me back in there, back up on the podium for the last race.
It's looking like the weather might be slightly different towards the end of the day. How's that going to make a difference for you?
It's looking iffy, but I enjoy the wet, so it should be good. I'm looking forward to it, in fairness, so it should be good.
So Anthony, another win for you in race 2. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, another clean win. We started on pole, so yeah, got away, pulled a bit of a lead, and just drove a clean race towards the end. So yeah, it's very good, very pleased.
Good solid start to the day. What's your secret going to be for the final?
Well, I've got a few quick ones worked their way up the pack behind me now, so I feel like I might be under a bit of pressure. So I think just try and do the same, try and get a good start, get away, just drive a clean race, just keep doing what I've been doing, and hopefully bring it home. Yeah.
Well, a perfect start for Anthony Jackson in the 650 class. Let's see if Duncan Macbeth can do the same in the open class. He starts in pole position on the front row with Phil Lee, the man alongside him on row 1. On row 2 is Danny Whitmey. He's battled his way up to the second row then with Colin Griffiths alongside him. James Addy goes off row 3 in P5 with Mark Richardson by his side, then completing the lineup for Open Superlight race number 2.
So the drivers on the grid for race number 2 of the Open Superlight Championship. Duncan Macbeth, the man who took the win in race number 1 at Rednal, and he's got another fantastic start. Phil Lee showing some pace last time out, but Phil Lee sneaked up the inside as he managed to make that stick, Chris.
Yeah, Danny Whitmey also losing out to number 17 there too, Mark Richardson, but a great manoeuvre for Phil Lee there, getting out in front, and now the pressure's on Duncan Macbeth there as working his way through the field, number 17, Mark Richardson, giving a real race now, also battling it out with Danny Whitney. James Addy's adding to the mix now too. There's a hard on the brakes into that left-hander.
Brilliant pass from James Addy there around the outside, Chris. That's some real rare old racing from James Addy, getting the hang of that Superlight. That man out front, Phil Lee in first place, Duncan Macbeth, the usual suspect, in second. Mark Richardson, we saw him parked on a tractor tyre in race number 1, so that didn't do his chances of picking up a first, second or even third place any good whatsoever. At the moment he is in third, and now Duncan Macbeth finds himself in the unfamiliar position of following somebody in 2013. Phil Lee just lets the Superlight run out to the right hand side. That's where he needs to be. Yeah, look for that's what Duncan Macbeth's going for. He's going for the cutback. He's got the power down, but Duncan not in the right position on the track, and Phil Lee just closes the door ever so gently and slightly politely, again keeping his Superlight on the inside of the apex to just make sure he's got the line that he wants. Looking in his mirrors, and he knows that he's got a very determined Duncan Macbeth all over the back of that number 10 machine that Phil Lee's sitting in.
Well, there's no question, Phil Lee is the perfect gentleman until you try to get past him in a Superlight.
And then it's perhaps a different story. But at the moment, 698 James Addy running. Is he running fourth on the road at the moment, James Addy? So doing a little bit better than he did in his first race. He qualified second here at Rednal and then struggled a bit in the first race. Maybe had the wrong tyres on, to be fair. So he's got the right tyres on now, because he's got some with a bit of tread on, which you need through the dirt section. So maybe a bit of a rookie error for James Addy.
Yeah, Mark Richardson, he basically drove over a tree to maintain that position. And actually, I don't think two wheels actually even left the circuit, so I don't think it was an illegal move in any way, shape or form. I should add, just while we're talking about illegal moves, James Addy's flipping the car 180 without using...
That's Colin Griffiths has gone off there, Chris, and gone straight through the barriers.
Right, so the marshals will work to do before the race leaders come through. Again, but I was just saying, James Addy under investigation for that move, trying to get past Colin Griffiths at the end of the last race. So no action taken at the moment, but he is under investigation. And we are on the final lap now, so Colin Griffiths has caught up.
Yeah, so Colin Griffiths, despite running off through the barriers, must have managed to rejoin without losing a lap, so he is quite legitimately battling with Danny Whitney for 5th place. But the man out front in the number 10 Superlight is Phil Lee, ahead of Duncan Macbeth in 2nd place. Phil Lee just getting it through the right-left flick, and he picks up the race win in race number 2.
And Macbeth has been defeated.
Yes, indeed, yeah. For the first time in the season, Duncan Macbeth does not take the top step in a race.
Well, perhaps slight disappointment for Duncan Macbeth. The best he could manage was 2nd place in Open Superlight Race 2. Phil Lee's the man who takes the win. Great to see him back on top, and 35 points to him. Duncan Macbeth does take 2nd place ahead of Mark Richardson in 3rd. A well-earned 4th place for James Addy, the newcomer to Superlight Racing, ahead of Danny Whitney and Colin Griffiths, completing the lineup for Open Superlight Race 2. Let's get down to the paddock then for reaction with Vicky.
Duncan, you were 2nd in race 2, not quite the 1st place you were hoping for, but still not bad.
It was a lot of fun though, a lot of fun. Good fun chasing down. Like I said, it's all about the starts, and I just made a mistake in the first corner, just a little bit too hot in, and Phil, he got in there and he had position on the inside of the hairpin. I had to yield. From then on, it was a big chase. I know I've got good pace on the circuit. Phil wasn't here for practice day yesterday, so I should have a little advantage there, knowing the circuit a little bit better than him. But I just couldn't get past him. There was a couple of times where I come up alongside into the hairpin and I bottled out, shall we say. I just didn't want contact, didn't want to crash. It's all about points and consistency. Maybe in the next race, it's all about the start again. And I'll be gunning for him, don't worry. It'll be another exciting race.
So Phil, you won race 2 then with the tyres all it needed?
Well, I'd like to think so, yeah. I got a very good start, and Duncan made a little mistake and I capitalised on it and managed to hold him off, but he made me work hard.
He said he really enjoyed it, if it's worth anything to you.
Oh yeah. Well, we always enjoy it, that's why we come. I mean, that's what it's all for, so. But yeah, hopefully if the season carries on like it has today, it'll be a good year.
What do you need to do to hold on to that 1st place for the final?
Try and drive faster and keep Duncan behind, but that's, I don't know. I mean, it's all in the lap of the gods. If I get a less than perfect start, you know, then I've got my work cut out. But it's very hard to overtake here. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, pray for a good start, really.
So another great race win for Anthony Jackson, claiming his second 650 race win of the day, and a great battle too for Duncan Macbeth with Phil Lee. Join us for more action then in the 650 class after the break.
The British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttolivafloat.com. The British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttolivafloat.com.
Welcome back to Rednal for the final race of the day for the 650 class. Anthony Jackson takes pole position for a third time today then, with Jake Swan alongside him on row 1. On row 2 is Paul Hudson with Phil Redfern in P4 on the outside of row number 2. And on row 3 is Joe Walton with Danny Kerwood. And completing the lineup on row 4 is Sadie Redfern with Gordon Knox.
So here we go then with race number 3 for the 650 Superlights here at Rednal Raceway, and it doesn't take a detective to spot the difference, and it started raining here, Chris Moorcroft, so this race is going to be very interesting. And looking at that, I think one or two of the drivers may actually be on slick tyres there. That can't be the case surely, but David Earden points the drivers to the lights, and the lights go out and they're underway, and a good start from Anthony Jackson, but Jake Swan in the 110 machine on the inside there, getting a pretty decent start as well. Number 4 is Paul Hudson in third place at the moment.
Jake up the inside to take first place. A great move, and he's overslid it. And now it's number 41, Anthony Jackson, back into the lead. And Jake's got it himself in all sorts of bother there. And was that Sadie Redfern, was it at the back, got entangled with him as well too?
It did look like Sadie Redfern had come a cropper with all the carnage in the first turn. As we said, Chris, it was likely to cause everybody problems because this is the first race. They've been dry, a little bit of moisture in the dirt section in race 2, but things have got progressively more and more wet, and that man Jake Swan in the 110 machine got himself in all sorts of bother when he thought he'd got the lead, and then it all got taken away from him. You can see the moisture coming off those back tyres. Anthony Jackson, the back end squirreling all over the place. He's put a waterproof jacket on now that it's got a little bit more damp here at Rednal Raceway, but Anthony Jackson, it's business as usual for him. He's in first place in race 3.
Yeah, just coming back onto the tarmac section. Joe racing his own race there really. Danny Kerwood behind him, and there's once again 2 other drivers behind that. We sort of always see this pack of drivers all competing together.
Yeah, Joe Walton definitely, you could see he was a little bit concerned there. He was going to run wide on the exit of that chicane there, and again he's running on there, and Danny Kerwood's got the better of it, but that looks like somebody sneaking up the inside. Is that Jake Swan recovering, working his way back up the field? And I think Jake definitely really hobbled himself at the beginning, didn't he? He was clearly very, very quick, but he just overcooked it. Too much ambition too early on, and he's paid the price for what could have maybe been a race win. Just time to take a little roll off there, but he's pretty quick now, Chris, but he'll be kicking himself for that mistake early in the race.
He absolutely will, but Jake likes it wet. He's a powerboat racer as well, and he will be relishing these conditions. I think Joe may be a little bit overcautious on the brakes, trying to slow it right down in the corners, and maybe losing a little bit too much corner speed. He puts it sideways, he's going to block the line, he runs over that grassy knoll on the inside there, and he keeps it honest at the moment, but really under the pressure from Jake Swan now.
It's fair to say that Joe Walton wasn't getting a lot of traction through that dirt section. You could see how much his rear tyres were spinning up. You weren't getting the same view from the back of Jake Swan's Superlight. Jake was getting much better traction, and again you see that's the business. Jake Swan gets the power down whilst Joe Walton is spinning up and his back end is squirreling away, fishtailing left, right and centre. Jake Swan is through, and he looks like he may have the pace to just pull away from Joe Walton now.
Oh, but late on the brakes, left the door wide open. Could Joe come back at him? has done.
It's the same corner he made the mistake before, Chris.
Amazing, amazing. And actually running into the back of Joe there and a little bit of contact. I don't think there's any damage done because you can see how the underside belly of the Superlites are chamfered off there to allow that. And it looks like Danny Kerwood's in a bit of bother there. Bit of understeer, locking up the brakes, even into reverse. He's going to get his race going again.
Yeah, as you were saying, Chris, a little bit of frustration from Jake Swan after making that same mistake on the same turn that he did all those problems for his race in the first lap, where he just got it in all sorts of a mess. Oh, and Joe Walton's lost it completely again. Coming out of that right-hander, he's got the speed down so low, and he's got such problems with traction there because they're not carrying any speed through that 180, right? It's a hairpin effectively, isn't it?
Well, for me, he's doing everything right on the hairpin. It's the next corner. As I said, he took that grassy knoll before, and actually he needs to just go straight a little bit and dodge that grassy knoll and turn in a little bit later on that. And that's what's cost him this time, because he's shifted his weight, and that's caused him on the wet surface to spin right round.
Yeah, he just seems to be having lots of problems with traction, doesn't he? I mean, maybe that's too much right foot.
Well, maybe it is. You know, I think everyone's having problems with traction, but it's about actually, in this case, driving with less acceleration than it is about braking, really. You know, it's all, the art to this is smoothing, you know, it's smooth, it's slowing fast out.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be slowing fast out. We can see there that you're getting a lot of wheel spin. And
well, that's the perfect
41,
line for me there.
Yeah, Anthony Jackson there, just a lot of wheel spin. You can see the vapour coming off the back wheel, shaking the head from Tony Turner.
Yeah, he's trying to get past Gordon Knox there, the back marker. And Gordon trying to drive his own race, trying to get his own experience in. And if he thinks he's a bit quicker, then he'll carry on. But, you know, this is actually costing Tony time now to try and get past him.
Yeah, Tony Turner's running a little bit down the field. He's down in 6th place at the moment, so I guess Gordon Knox is entitled to race with him at the minute, because I think Gordon's in front, actually.
Oh, right, well, my apologies. I'm actually
briefly
completely stopping the Superlite there, blocking Tony's race there, and actually, yeah, Gordon is having a battle with Tony Turner, so I'm not sure what's going on with Tony here, because we saw him really being a serious contender in round one. Doesn't seem to have the pace here, and I'm afraid I must apologise, Gordon. I've done you an injustice there, because he struggled a little bit in race one, but actually seemed to have found some rhythm here.
Yeah, Paul Hudson there in 2nd place into the dirt section, gets the drive down, and it still stays very tight. He's got the confidence to run right out to the end of the track there, Chris, but no mistakes yet from Anthony Jackson. Hope I haven't put the commentator's curse on it.
Well, every lap has been identical. I've been watching it, just a very, very brief lock-up turning into that tight left-hander before you enter the dirt section. But of course that's quite dangerous, because if your wheel locks up, then you could, you know, massively understeer there and go straight on. He hasn't done. He's got it absolutely perfect, and with 2 turns remaining, one to the right, one to the left, he's coming over the line to take the checker flag, and a brilliant 3rd race win for Anthony Jackson. So what's becoming difficult driving conditions then for the 650 class. Anthony Jackson goes away with the win then, 35 points to him, 3 out of 3. A great day for Anthony, ahead of Paul Hudson in 2nd place and Phil Redfern claiming 3rd. Then Jake Swan goes away with 4th, ahead of Joe Walton, Tony Turner, Gordon Knox, Danny Kerwood and Sadie Redfern. The top 9 drivers in 650 Superlight race number 3. So I think we lost 1 somewhere along the way there in that race. Let's get down to the paddock with Vicky.
Phil, you managed to get 3rd in the final race of the day, and it looked very slippy out there.
It was treacherous, absolutely treacherous. It was just like an ice rink. So I'm very happy with 3rd, very happy indeed.
As far as Superlight racing goes, like an ice rink isn't that bad for Superlight racing, is it?
It's not too bad, but it didn't seem to be no grip at all, so it did make it challenging, to say the least.
Challenging, but loads of fun.
Always fun, always loads of fun.
Anthony, race 3 was a very different race from the others that we've seen today, but you still got a clean sweep. Tell me how your day's been.
Well, the final was a little bit different. We've had a little bit of rain, which made things a little bit more tricky. We had a little, I think, a 2nd corner incident. We got sort of a little bit tangled up, managed to keep it going, and just again drove a clean race and managed to finish and bring it home to get 1st place.
A quick look then at the standings with 2 rounds gone. Anthony Jackson is a man that leads from Phil Redfern and Jake Swan. Then Joe Walton, Tony Turner, Danny Kerwood, Sadie Redfern, Gordon Knox, Wayne Stockbridge and Paul Hudson, the top 10. So 3 victories in one afternoon for Anthony Jackson in the 650 class. He leads the championship. Plenty of action though still to come in the open class. Join us again after the break for Open Superlight Race 3.
The British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttoliveafloat.com. The British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttoliveafloat.com.
Welcome back to Rednal for Open Superlight race number 3, the final race of the day then. Phil Lee is the man who takes pole position, snatching it from Duncan Macbeth, who starts alongside him on the front row. On row 2 is Mark Richardson with James Addy in P4. In P5 on row 3 is Danny Whitney, and alongside him is Colin Griffiths, all still to play for in the second round of the British Superlight Championship. And the drivers getting up to the grid. The rain now falling here at Rednal.
So here we go then with the final Open Superlight race of the day here at Rednal, and conditions a little bit more damp. Great start by the looks of things for Phil Lee in the number 10 machine, but Duncan Macbeth's got the inside line into the first corner, and he does in fact make that pay, but Phil Lee going for the cutback. Duncan Macbeth having a quick look over his right shoulder, Chris, but taking that wide line through that that right hand bend, and I think Macbeth has done enough to stay in front.
Well, absolute brilliant driving from Duncan Macbeth, who managed to get the power down as Phil Lee's in all sorts of trouble, coming under pressure now from Colin Griffiths. Griffiths passed up into second place. He goes wide. Phil Lee is passing back. Great race, neck and neck here, turning in, and Griffiths is on the brakes. He's slid it. He's gone out wide. Phil Lee's back into second place. Awesome racing here, Luke.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, but Colin Griffiths unfortunately just completely outbraked himself at the end of that long straight. As I said, the driver's going to have to get used to these conditions, a bit different than they were in the previous 2 races, and just not enough grip underneath Colin Griffiths there as he tried to get that thing stopped at the end of the long straight. And that man, Duncan Macbeth, out front in first place, has taken advantage of that, and he's got himself a tidy little gap ahead of that man, Phil Lee, in second.
He really has. An absolute brilliant first couple of turns for Colin Griffiths. Mark Richardson there just drifting it big style there and really struggling for traction, but that man, Duncan Macbeth, absolutely sensational. I think he's on full wets, but he's just letting the Superlight run just so deep around there.
Colin Griffiths again, another problem for Colin, and he looked like he was quick, and I was saying, would he have an answer to the pace of Duncan Macbeth? But unfortunately, Colin Griffiths retiring there, and that man Phil Lee is promoted into second place as a result of Colin's misfortune. So Phil Lee with the job of trying to put himself between Duncan Macbeth and the first place prize. Duncan Macbeth running the full wet tyre, but I just noticed there that Mark Richardson was running the intermediate tyre, which is 2 grooves in the back tyre, just in the middle of the rear tyre, whereas Duncan's got the full wets on. So clearly Duncan with a slightly more appropriate tyre choice for these conditions.
Yeah, and perhaps that's the advantage that he got over Phil Lee, because he did manage to get the power down very, very quickly, whereas Phil made a great start and a great jump from the start. By the second into the third turn, Duncan had really got the power down, although he's still running it very, very long into that corner, and it's certainly the quickest way around, although it's the longest way around. You're leaving yourself wide open if you've got any competition coming up behind you there to nip up the inside, but whether they'll be able to stop as effectively as you, remains to be seen.
Well, again, I've mentioned this before, that I got the feeling from Duncan's driving style. We just see him in the background there. We're looking at James Addy now. James does a little bit of karting. Duncan Macbeth, I would imagine, has got some experience of karting, and on a circuit like this, that is a karting circuit, the racing line with the rubber down, it's actually quicker to be offline, because when the rubber is wet, it's very, very, very icy, and so that might be the reason that Duncan Macbeth going into that turn was just running very wide, because there's a bit more grip on a wet track where there's less rubber down.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it turns into ball bearings. We've already talked about the dirt on there. We've talked about the moisture on top, but they're skating on very tiny fine bits of rubber as well that's been laid down. It's like anything. If you've got a dry spell of weather, on your domestic roads, and as soon as it starts raining, it becomes very, very slippy, and a lot of people don't realise that.
Phil Lee's actually got full wets on. It was Mark Richardson who I was suggesting was running on rear intermediates. James Addy got a problem facing the wrong way again, managed to spin it round. He's got those full wets on now, but as we've said, James just trying to find his way with this new machine that he's starting to race in. Phil Lee in second place, got plenty of experience in these Superlights, so he should be pretty much aware of what he's doing, but we've also said that they've not raced that many times here at Rednal, if at all, before.
No, the Superlights didn't race last year. The championship was held here, but just the bikes raced here. The Superlights we thought was too narrow, but they're giving it a go this year. And actually, there's been some great racing. It is very narrow, there's no question. But actually, there has been some really good racing, and some of the guys have really proved there are passing opportunities. You just need to look for them.
Duncan Macbeth in the 150 machine, 150 is in first place, and he's looking very, very comfortable. And you could almost say, Chris, that he's taken an easy race win in the third and final race of the day for these Open Superlights here at Rednal.
Well, yeah, maybe he has. I mean, he's got the right tyre choice, there's no question about that, but he's just driven so smooth and steady, and as soon as he got past Phil Lee, the pressure was off because Phil was slightly overdriving, but a great race victory for Duncan Macbeth in Superlight Open racing. Duncan Macbeth turning his fortunes around there then as we take a look at the results for Open Superlight Race 3. The official results, of course, Duncan Macbeth then the winner, taking 35 points ahead of Phil Lee in second place. Danny Whitney goes away with third for his efforts ahead of Mark Richardson, James Addy and Colin Griffiths. Well, guess who's back down in the paddock, of course, catching up with the drivers then. It's Vicky Monk. Let's see how she gets on, chatting to our winner, Duncan Macbeth.
Duncan, that was another cracking race win. Talk me through it.
It was. I can't believe it. 3 out of 3 all day. I don't know what to say, really. I'm beside myself. 3 race wins. I don't think I've done that before. Let's hope I can carry on like that. Next meeting is going to be a tricky one. See what happens there. But gives me a good lead in the championship now. Good start. Can't ask for any more than that.
And where does that leave you then in the championship? How many points is everybody behind you?
I haven't looked actually, but 2 race wins. I've won 5 out of the 6 races, so I'm in the front. I've got a little cushion.
Looking healthy, that's good. So this is your second season racing, but your first full season, am I right?
First full season. I started halfway through last year. Absolutely love it. I was born to do this, I think. So here we are. This is going to be first full season, and I'm going to have a damn good crack at going for the national championship.
So Duncan Macbeth is the man who leads the Open Championship with Phil Lee, and Danny Whitney not far behind in third place. Mark Richardson, Simon Nutter, James Addy, James Stevens, Mike Taylor and Colin Griffiths are the top 10 in the Open Championship. So a great day's racing for Duncan Macbeth. He only managed to use 2 race wins and a second place, but it's still enough for him to be the man on top of the championship. That's all we've got time from Rednal. Join us again for the next round then at Fenmere.
The British Superlite Championship, sponsored by wanttoliveafloat.com.